It's been a while since Samsung came up with the word buying mid-ranger. The J series has always been a curious lineup of devices. J7 Max provides a really good outcome. The success of the J series has always been on account of Samsung being a tier 1 brand. So they are trying to change that by bringing in two refined devices. The two being the J7 Pro and the J7 Max. Last year the J7 Max was a 7-inch monster. This year they have toned it down to a more manageable 5.7 inch. This is Ambarish from Tech Unique and you are watching our review of J7 Max.
Too hard that we were traveling mountains just to
Max is quite nice for the price. Though it's not gonna stray miles away from the design language of the J7 Prime or any other J series phone for that matter, it does express a very decent look with nicely chamfered edges and 2.5D glass on the front. The all-metal build does instill a very acceptable reassuring feel, and that flush camera with no hump is another feat as well. Had Samsung included a USB Type-C port, it would have definitely won my praise for the design. Nevertheless, the manageable heft of the phone and its nice screen-to-body ratio makes this a good overall package. The left houses the volume rockers, the dual SIM tray and the micro SD tray. The right houses the power button and the speaker. The speaker position, though not perfect and quite weird, is quite a nice driver itself. It gets sufficiently loud and does not distort. Now moving on to the camera. As usual, let's start off by talking about the UI, which is typical Samsung, with all the different modes accessible by swiping from the left, which includes Pro, Panorama, Continuous Shot, Sound and Shot, etc. There are a few new inclusions here like the anti-fog and social. Now we did try the anti-fog in a comparatively overcast day and found its result to be nothing to write home about. Now the social is a nice new mode packed with the J7 Max, wherein you can instantly share your pics in real time with some stickers in effect to your social media contacts. It's something that we don't use much, but it is a cool trick for sure. Then of course there is the toned down Pro mode for manually configuring your shot. It includes the ISO white balance and shutter speed. On the left side you can find the flash toggle, the camera switcher and the settings icon. There is a focus lock and all you need to do is long press on the viewfinder on the spot where you want to lock your focus. The burst mode is quite nice, which lets you select from 5 different burst shots when you hold the shutter button. The continuous shot, as it is known, is a simple way to get the right click and choose from the best one. You can quickly select the best one and delete the rest. Now one nice thing I should mention about the UI is the ability to hold down the shutter button and drag either down or up for zooming into the subject. It's quite intuitive and I personally like this a lot. Now talking of the shots, the f1.7 aperture boasting 13 megapixel snapper takes some really nice shots given average to good lighting. There is plenty of resolved detail and the dynamic range is on point. The HDR properly balances the shot which are over or underexposed. Even in less than ideal situations, the camera holds up quite good. The front snapper, which too is a 13 megapixel snapper, is a very good performer. Macro shots come out really good with a nice creamy shallow depth of field thanks to the f1.7 aperture. Video recording is available up to 1080p and the results are okay, but the lack of stabilization can be felt. Talking of that display, well, at first I was quite skeptical about the inclusion of a TFT LCD panel over Samsung's tried and true Super AMOLED, but the display took me by a pleasant surprise. It's quite good with very good contrast for a non-AMOLED panel and very good viewing angles. It gets quite bright too, so as to not pose any issues under direct sunlight. And of course I should mention it is a big relief that Samsung has included the auto brightness sensor. Of course you also get all of Samsung's scene modes for setting the color temperature to your liking, though I generally find the out of the box settings since they seem to be the most accurate and colorful. Now the Samsung Galaxy J7 Max is running atop Android 7.0 Nougat with the latest skin of Samsung on top, which happens to be the Samsung Experience. It's nice to see this skin being run on this phone and not being reserved for the S8 and I say it plus only. The new UI is quite a nice looking one, especially when you compare it to the previous TouchWiz. The functionality improvements are welcome, but what is more good to find that this UI is far smoother than previous iterations and hence making for fluid overall experience. Things like the notification toggle now look a lot more neatly organized, and the same goes for the settings page, with everything laid out much more sensibly and logically. So I would say this is one of the best suits of this phone. The phone feels a lot smooth in performing daily tasks like swiping across home screens and jumping across apps. The animations are a lot more fluid, and this makes for a faster operating phone. Even things like the briefing page are a lot faster than earlier. Samsung Pay Mini is a heavily marketed feature of this phone, which lets you make UPI payments. Now the Helio P20 that powers this phone might not be a very well accepted choice of SoC, but it performs quite pleasantly. In fact, its performance is comparable to that of Snapdragon 625, which has got the same configurations but only is a little more powerful efficient, thanks being built on the 14nm process unlike 16 on the Helio P20. Performance is very much okay, and talking of efficiency, this phone does a very decent job of keeping up running along for some time. Since Samsung's new UI does not show any screen on times, it's not possible to show them here, but from my experience using this phone for 7 days, I would say it does a good job of lasting a day and sometimes even a day and a half with moderate to heavy use. Gaming is okay for most games, save for the most graphically intensive ones like Asphalt 8. The Mali T880 MP2 GPU handles casual games very fine with smooth gameplay. Smart Glow, which debuted with the J2 2016, makes a return in the J7 Max. It's a glowing LED circumferring the rear camera. It can be used to assign different colors to contacts to know who is calling and do a lot more. Call quality was pretty good with the J7 Max, with earpiece sounding very loud and clear. Lastly, the fingerprint scanner on the J7 Max is okay. Its accuracy is quite decent, but the speed of unlocking the phone is pretty slow. So the J7 Max is decent offering in the price range, only outshone by the likes of Asus Zenfone 3 and the Honor 8. The performance of this phone is quite acceptable, so if you want a phone which has a good enough camera and a very big screen, this is a very great choice. Thank you, this is Ambarish from Tech Unique, and please subscribe to our channel.